And then for 72, it says, scientists hoping to understand and eventually reverse damage to the fragile ozone layer in the Earth's upper atmosphere use a spacecraft to conduct crucial experiments. Okay. These experiments drew criticism from a group of environmentalists who observed that a single trip by the spacecraft did as much harm to the ozone layer as a year's pollution by the average factory, and that since the latter, and the latter refers to the year's pollution of an average factory, is unjustifiable, so must be the former, so the spacecraft. So our conclusion is that the spacecraft is unjustifiable, right? Is this, what flaw did we predict here? So I guess I should take a step back. The reason that we're saying that this spacecraft is unjustifiable is because it had as much of a year's pollution as the average factory, and the pollution that an average factory does is unjustifiable. Is that good support to guarantee a valid conclusion? All right, Jillian, why did you say not?
I said because the whole point of them, well, that's what I predicted, is like the whole point of them going up there is to figure out how to prevent it. Whereas the pollution coming from the factory, they had no intent of doing so.
Yeah, excellent. It's like sometimes we have to do things that are like worse to eventually get better. It's like pain for beauty. So like pollution for eventually not having pollution is going on here. All right. So then when we read through these ones, it says A treats as similar two cases that are different in a critical aspect. So does this happen? What do you think, Atusa? Do we have two cases that are different, but do we have two cases that are similar, but we treat different in a critical aspect or respect, I should say?
I would say no.
All right. Does anybody have a different opinion?
I mean, for me, they are similar. They both produce pollution, but
yeah.
again,
So we have two cases that are similar, that they both produce pollution. Excellent. But are they different in a very critical? Well, sorry, I should say, do we treat these two things similarly? Let me take a step back. Hold on. Let's say our conclusion is that it's not justifiable. The former is not justifiable. So do we treat those two cases similarly in our argument? Absolutely, because we're using that other one. We're saying like, because this is the same amount of pollution as an average factory, it is not justifiable to have a spacecraft. So we treat those similarly, but are they actually different in a critical aspect or a critical respect? How are they different? What do you think, Taylor?
Well, I chose A just because, like, I don't know. I just kind of just felt like that's what was like my prediction, I guess, because they are two different cases and they're drawing criticism from each of them.
Yeah, okay. So we act as if they're similar, but they're different and critical. The thing that they're different in is what Jillian pointed out, is that there's hopes to like learn how to be better. And so just because they're producing the same amount of pollution doesn't make them equal. Does that make sense? Is that
Yes.
Okay, cool. So, and then B says justifies a generalization on the basis of a single instance. I think a lot of people pick B, but do we justify a generalization? No. And then C says fails to distinguish the goal of reversing harmful effects from the goal of preventing those harmful effects. So this is saying that we don't determine the difference between like reversing the harmful effects and preventing them. Is that what we're trying to do here? Are we talking about like reversing? We do want to reverse the damage, but it's the issue that we don't know the difference between reversing the harmful effects and preventing them. No, our thing is that we're saying that the former must have been Is the former is unjustifiable. D says attempts to compare two quantities that are not comparable in any way. Nope, any way is way too strong. And the two quantities are technically like comparable. Like we're saying this one is a whole, like the same, more pollution. And then E says presupposes the experiments always do harm to their subjects. Do we assume that the experiment always harms their subjects? Nope. And that's why E is wrong. So our answer is A. All right, how do people